Well, the B20 South Africa Sherpa, Coovadia, is confident that the Global South priorities for inclusive and sustainable growth have been established. G20 member countries have reached consensus on actionable solutions. Coovadia spoke to business reporter Ntokozo Khumalo on the sidelines of the B20 Summit in Sandton. And I want us to have a listen to this particular package, and then on the back of it, I'm going to have a very interesting guest in studio for you. So don't go anywhere. Let's take a listen.
Well, the B20 presidency will be handed back over to the Global North when the United States takes over the presidency in 2026. But a lot of conversations that were shaped by South Africa's presidency in 2025. And to talk us through that is B20 Sherpa Coovadia. Thank you so much for talking to us. Now, as a Sherpa, one of the key jobs that you do is to ensure that you shape those conversations that do take place. Was it a hard job in 2025, or do you find that all members really were on the same page in terms of what needs to be done?
Well, look, I must say I've been very fortunate that I had an amazing group of CEOs who chaired our 8 task forces, and they, together with our knowledge partners, network partners, and so on, did a lot of that work. But of course, you've got countries from the G20, businesses from the G20, we've got businesses from the continent. We had to go through a thorough process to arrive at a set of recommendations, which we handed over to the G20 on the 4th of September, that everybody bought into. And I think the reason we were able to do that, while we put Africa at the center of the B20 agenda, we also determined that there are synergies between Africa's growth and development and the growth and development of the world. Because Africa has the most arable land of any continent in the world. If we grow food properly, if we develop that land properly, and we export food to other countries, we're contributing to addressing the food insecurity problems of the world. Africa has the minerals to actually fuel the AI economy, both beneficiating them and exporting finished products, but also exporting raw minerals. And if we get that right, we're actually contributing to the AI economy growing. And similarly with food, with energy, Africa has natural resources to actually take us on the path towards renewable energy and new forms of energy. And again, can contribute to the world, and then our youthful population and so on. So I think what we've tried to do, and I think we've to a certain extent succeeded, is that Africa's growth and development is complementary to the growth and development of the world. And so the other G20 business organizations recognize that, and that's why we were able to reach the recommendations we did.
So the agenda really sets for 2025 and B20. How do we keep the momentum going once South Africa no longer holds that seat of presidency?
So look, one of the problems, I think both for the G20 and the B20, but let me speak for the B20, is that it doesn't have a permanent secretariat. So it goes from one host to the other. The host essentially does what they want to do, hands over recommendations, goes through a long process of arriving at the recommendations, and then nobody knows what happens to them. So what we are trying to do now, so I've spoken to the Brazilian Sherpa, I've spoken to obviously the US Sherpa, and I've spoken to the UK people because they, it seems, taking over in 2027. And what we're trying to do is that if at least between these 4 Sherpas, we can establish some sort of mechanism that tracks the recommendations, okay? See how many have been accepted by the G20, how many are being implemented, and what the impact of the implementation is, okay? Because we represent businesses as B20. Business wants to see implementation and impact. If we don't show that, C-suite people lose interest, and I don't blame them. So we're trying to put together this mechanism, and I'll be talking to the Sherpas post the summit as well. And if we can do that, even if it's a virtual mechanism to start with, maybe we develop some sort of a secretariat, and we can then work with the success of G20 is to see where the recommendations are and how they can be implemented.